Hi there, I'm Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez, and this is the Design Your Physician Life podcast. Welcome to this episode brought to you by our Maxillary Mastermind, which is a personal and professional program for physicians who want to learn about entrepreneurship. Today, we're going to talk about a journey to find my financial advisor. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Design Your Physician Life podcast, where you will get excited about being a physician, learn the tools that can help boost your success, and great tips from successful doctors. Join us to unlock the keys to an amazing physician life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Design Your Physician Life podcast. I am here today to talk to you about a journey to find my financial advisor. I hope that you can learn some about it today. We want to tell you this story. I want to share you this story with you because not many of us have had the chance of living in a family where financial knowledge, financial literacy was really one of our things growing up. Certainly, it wasn't in my family, and we had many different businesses in our family growing up. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. But one of the things that we've noticed is that you need different things, different pillars to be a successful entrepreneur and long-term. And one of those is certainly having financial literacy. Yes, that was not present in my family growing up. And I didn't find that until very late, much later in my life. So I want to share that with you. Growing up, my family, my father, he had different businesses. We had a property that he would rent to different businesses. So it was, let's go to long-term rental for a commercial property. And through that property, we had many different businesses going through those properties, through those spaces. Well, some of those actually belonged to my family. And I loved it. I loved the customer experience. One of them was a children's boutique where we had clothes, and I was that age where I could dress from that boutique. And I loved the whole process. My parents would go to New York, purchase, come back, and have just such a wonderful store, beautiful store. There was a very famous puppeteer in the island, Puerto Rico, where I'm from. And actually they would, I remember they would bring the puppets, and that would be the display that people could see on the outside of the store. It was really a beautiful store, as I remember growing up. We also had an ice cream shop. And I remember, guys, if you've heard recently about, ABBA in Mamma Mia, well, all those songs, I grew up with them. And when my parents had that ice cream store, we had those songs there at night. And I would love to come after school to go there and be in that business. Still, my family, they knew how to do these businesses. We had our clients, but unfortunately the businesses did not last long because we really we had the passion, we have some knowledge, but we didn't have the financial knowledge. Anyways, fast forward, going through medical school, you're ready for this promised land, right? You say you're going to be a physician and there's going to be some monetary compensation at the end of the road. And there has been some, certainly, after you graduate from your residency and your fellowship, you enter your life as an attending. And it's still, to this day, still a few times more than what you're making as a resident when you come out to work, right? And then suddenly you have this money, and like you're ready for that promise of this life of relief. And many of us will encounter what's called arrival fallacy, where you get there and it's not the same in many ways. And one of those ways that is not the same is that even though we are maybe making so much more money than what we were during our previous years, we still don't know how to manage it. And that knowledge doesn't come automatically. In my case, and I don't know if this is the case, I think it's the case of many of us, you go to work to that new hospital for the first time, and there's a party. And at that party, there's this group of people who are sponsoring that party. In many cases, this might be insurance people. It might be investment people or so-called financial advisors. So I remember our first party that we came to this, in the hospital, and these guys were there, and we met them. Oh, let's go and meet with these guys because, they're here, so they must know a lot. They must have your best interest at heart. And there we go. We went to one of these financial advisors, and we sat down with them. We explained our situation. I had just graduated. My husband had just left his job at Intel, where he was, a manager there to follow me coming to Florida. And he was doing his MBA while I was in my first job and as an attending physician. And there we are in this office. It was a fancy office, glass office for this financial advisor. And after we tell him, about our new salary, our move, and everything, the only thing that sticks with me to this day is the fact that this person recommended basically that we did all our purchases in the flea market. And that's all I can remember. I swear, I cannot remember what other advice they gave me. I only heard that. In my mind, it's like, I had just graduated medical school, my residency and my fellowship. I went through all that stuff, and I was ready to really live the life. And we have this woman here telling us to go and do our purchases in our flea market so that then we could save money and then start investing. So it was really a type of, I guess, fast fire life that I wasn't ready to live at that time. And I don't think that they were really ready to advise physicians in that way. She actually told me that that's what she did. That's how she lived her life. And that way she was able to invest. And I really was not ready for that. So we didn't hire that financial advisor. And we kept moving on, right? So then we had a relocation, my second job as an attending. And that was a higher salary. And not only that, we had that salary plus my husband now had a higher salary as well. So combined, we really were making, at the time, this is around 20 years ago already. And we were making a decent salary at the time. So we get one of my attendings, and as I always said, look at those guys who are happy in the office and ask them what they're doing. So I did that. 20 years ago. And I asked my friend about his financial advisor. I was like, okay, yes, I'll present you. And this was an attending. My attending was the one who introduced me to this guy in this sense, because this person actually worked where we were working and had access to our salaries, and they knew what we were making. And we go there. Actually, the person came to our house, and my attending was ahead of me. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe just 5 years ahead of me. And when I came back as an attending, it wasn't that much ahead, and his wife was not working. So we had two salaries, which were probably similar to what at least that attending was making. And we sit down with this financial advisor, and I'm thinking, he's here, he knows what I'm making because he has access to this information. And don't ask me how they had access, but that was the deal. And then they were sent by somebody that we're all like in the same circle. So we go through our finances and everything and our goals and the things that we want to do. And he said that at the time we were not making as much as he wanted us to make for him to help us. And that was extremely confusing and frustrating because we were really making very similar money to what this other person was doing. We didn't have the investments. That's what we're there for. And in that situation, and he took the time to come to our house and still didn't help us. And you might be thinking, well, are these guys like, they don't have things in, right? Like, we're looking here to really organize our finances and having the best of intentions, actually coming from a family that you don't know anything about financial. You don't have any really good financial knowledge, getting to what you think the right people will be and not getting what seems to be the right help. So moving on, we get into my third job. And yes, don't be surprised. Physicians really changed at least an average of 2.5 times for jobs. And we came back into a situation where this time I was actually making more than my husband and me combined. And it was really a good setup, really great setup at that time. And we come now with kids, and it's a whole new life. And a friend, once again, I asked for somebody to refer me to somebody, and they referred us to this particular advisor. And we had this advisor for years, and we thought it was really a great way of living. Like we went and went through our expenses, and then they said, you start investing here and you do this. But the little detail that he was focused on is, who would tell us from his point of view, was like our home was our biggest asset. And that was his focus. And also selling us a product where he would get commissions from. These things we really didn't understand until still years later after this relationship. I didn't understand that. Well, people were happy with him and were kind of happy, like, okay, well, we got a home finally, and we did what he said, and we were, like kind of saving here in this policy, and he was making money. So I guess it was a win, we were thinking it was a win-win situation at the time. But still, like, something like wasn't right, especially when this person came with this new product. And in this new product, he would get all of our money, everything I was making at the time. Instead of going to my bank, it would go to their accounts, and then they would give me my monthly amount to spend, and they would handle all my money for me. It's like, what? Like, are you crazy? Who am I going to give all my money to? No. And it was right at that time when we found Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it was like an awakening, major awakening in our lives. It's like, oh my goodness, our house really is not our biggest asset. It's really a liability. This is how you make income, passive income, and doing this, and what a fiduciary was, and all these things. Like, oh my goodness, my world turned around. It's like upside down. And took that information to my husband, and then here we are. So we finally got into a fiduciary. So that's how we found our business advisor, a financial advisor. So after different financial advisors whose advice was really not what, now in this new vision that we've developed, an ideal financial advice is, that's how we found this particular group. So how did we find them? So we went then with this new knowledge about, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was a book, like, actually I had seen years before, and for some reason I didn't want it. It just wasn't my time. It wasn't our time. But once I found it, I didn't only read it. Like, I saw the videos, I read it, and then I read it with my husband. We read it aloud together. We did all the exercises together. It's like, oh my goodness, where have we been all these years? But the good thing is that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. So first thing, guys, if you haven't read the book, yes, you'll see that a lot of physicians, really, we have not had financial literacy. We have not acquired this during most of our years. Right now, we have good resources, which we didn't have in our careers. I graduated medical school and residency and fellowship, actually my fellowship over 20 years ago now. And that wasn't a focus of any medical school in giving us any of these. And we didn't have any of the, white coat, the white coat book for investments and financial help. We didn't have any of those things. So this was really a great finding at the time, where we finally did. So we learned about the real differences between assets and liabilities, that our house is really a big liability, and that we should focus on other types of investments and on passive income. We learned what that is. And, I have a friend, like, they call it mail money, and that was what we really wanted to do. So my favorite word was now fiduciary, a fiduciary advisor. And how did we get to that one? Well, we went then, thanks that there are these groups now that we can see a lot of physician groups where there's support for each other. And we found that in through some of these Facebook groups. And then we got this particular financial advisor. Unfortunately, he's not available right now. I would tell you all about it, but I can tell you who in the group helped us the most in a second. So when we met with this financial advisor, the vibe was completely different. It was like way different. It's like, what is this? Like, this feels like a psychological visit. And it was everything. At the beginning was about mindset. And when we're talking about money, especially coming from the medical field, many times we think we don't want to talk about money because the way that we make our money is through our patients, and we don't want that to be something that's being seen or felt in any way that we're taking advantage of them. But the truth is, like, to make a living, that's the vehicle that we've chosen to help others, and there's a price and there's a way of utilizing that money later, not only for our own personal benefits, live our lives, but also to do good for others. And there's all this thing about mindset, the money mindset. And we met with them, and our first meeting with our advisors was an evaluation about what we wanted in the future. And it was about your goals, the things that you want to achieve, not only like for the future in 10 or 20 years or whenever you retire. It was really what happens if you know for sure that you're going to die in 5 years. What would you do? What would you do if you for sure know that you're going to die in a month, in a week, or tomorrow? And those were the types of questions that they were asking us, like, oh my goodness, what are you talking about? And it's because we want to first design that vision, determine your principles, your values, what is really important for you, to really understand how you're going to be spending and investing that money, how you're going to build what we call your buckets of money for the planning, right? Some people call it budgeting. Most people call it budgeting. Some people call it like investment planning. And those were the first questions. So who are these fiduciary guys? So the fiduciary guys, they really work on your behalf. Okay, they are financial advisors who are in charge of helping you to achieve your true independence, and they respond only to you. They are not here to make money out of commissions. You will find that many financial advisors will sell you what they have access to. So it might be like they have this type of insurance, or they have this type of other plans, for example, where they make money because you're paying a monthly fee for this particular product, and that's how they make the money. The fiduciaries, they're there on your behalf. They will work for you. They don't work for one of these other firms or banks or insurance companies. They work for you, and they get paid by you. So they can get paid by you in different ways. Either pay them like a one-time fee for them to give you a plan based on the things that you discussed, or you can go like a membership type of thing going on, for 6 months at a time or a year at a time. Or they can pay you depending on how much you're making in terms of your investments. For example, let's say that you join this particular group of fiduciary advisors and they help you, and you're at, just to say a number, $1 million a year, and you might have signed up for them and they're going to make 1% of that $1 million that you're making. But what their incentive is that if you grow that fortune for you, they will grow that fortune, and that's how they make extra income. So they're not selling you some products just because they're going to make money out of that product. They're selling you a plan, a life of making more money. The more that you make, the more they make, usually in that sense. So they're going to do whatever it is to use the money to the best of their abilities. So a fiduciary is a professional who will prioritize their best interests, your best interests above anything else. And they're bound to act in your best interest, placing your clients, your need as a client above their own. So that's different than the other advisors, as I said. So in this particular fiduciary, they had this group where you would go, as I said, through that evaluation, which was first setting your mindset and finding what the family values are, the principles of your family. Based on that, then the rest will come. And they had a particular financial advisor that we were assigned to, and they would guide us. And not all of them have the same expertise. For example, we were very curious and interested in real estate investment. This was not necessarily the best group, but at the stage where we were, it was great to go with them so they could organize our income and determine our budgets, as we say, and then the buckets that we're going to be starting to invest. So who helped us the most there? The person that I can say probably helped us the most was this guy. His name is Nick True. Hi, Nick, if you're listening to this. And there's a tool called YNAB. You need a budget. That tool helped us. It's complicated. It's not like as simple as doing your like Excel sheet, but it's very complete, and it allows you to basically assign your money to everything and anything that you want. So what we would do is that we would put our money for the month, our income, and distribute it there for all our expenses, our normal monthly expenses, plus our dreams, plus our investments, plus our emergency bucket. So those are the 4 buckets that we've been building with the use of this company. And not only that, by being able to put everything in a way that was assigned, you would see if you would be short in a bucket. And I'll tell you about the buckets in a second. If you were short in a bucket, if you could spend some extra on an extra bucket, and what you could plan on other things that you could fund besides what you had already planned for. So it was really, really a great tool. And this person helped us with that. Plus, we had a big, huge responsibility, which was a loan that we had. We had a business loan that we still had to finish. And that's something that we wanted to finalize so that then we can invest more in our emergency bucket. And that's what we did. So instead of paying, and I'm just smiling right now, because instead of paying off this loan in the over 2 years it was going to take us, we did it way quicker. We saved a lot of interest, and we were able to fill up our emergency bucket pretty quickly, which was like what I was looking for. So then that we could start funding our investments and our dream buckets. So that was really amazing. That's how we did that. So that's a tool that I recommend. It has helped our family. Going through this process with the fiduciary was extremely useful, and that's how we found it. It really took us all those years to be able to find the right person. So how do you find a fiduciary? They are licensed. They are, and you can look, we've had actually, if you look through previous podcasts, you can see some podcasts of some fiduciary advisors that we've had, and I invite you to review those. We don't necessarily recommend somebody in particular. This is a very personal decision. When we went through those other financial advisors, they were having business, right? They had other people that were advising, and they were very happy. In our case, it took 4 of them, 4 different groups, to finally get the ones that would really be helpful to us. And still, even though they were so wonderful and amazing, and it was really a transformation in our lives, if I had one and more ask, I would have asked for another group that was really more in tune with more passive income besides investing in the market, which was their forte. So if I was going to look for another one at this point, I would look for one that had that expertise. So when you are looking for a fiduciary, you might want to still have a little bit extra knowledge when you're asking questions for them. So let's review some questions that you might want to ask if you're going to be hiring a fiduciary. Okay, so as I explained to you already, they find fiduciary advisor, they work in different ways in terms of their compensation. So that would be like a good question to ask. And it's like, first, what is your compensation structure? Is it fee-based or commission-based? And that's what the difference I told you, right? In our case, it was a fee-based. We didn't have a commission-based. Some of them will start you on a fee, and then depending on what your goals are, if you're able to reach like much higher goals, then they might switch to commission. And that's a question that you're going to ask them. For our case, it was fee-based. So we had them for the period of time, and it was really great to have them just for that fee. The other question that I would recommend is like, are you a registered investment advisor? If they're affiliated with any financial institution. So they have to be, that's going to be, being a registered investment advisor is not going to ensure you that they're a good advisor, but like being board certified doesn't assure you that you're going to be receiving a good doctor to take care of you. So it's the same, but it does tell you that person had some extra training and some extra certification. They also are going to be most of the time affiliated with a financial institution. And as I said, you don't want somebody who's working directly on being paid by the financial institution. What happens is that for them to be certified, they really need to be linked to a financial institution, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be selling the products from that financial institution, but they should be affiliated, and they'll tell you which one. It might be that they're not affiliated, and that's something for you guys to decide if that would be a good choice for you. Another question is that how do they ensure that their advice is unbiased and free of conflicts of interest? And that's where we have that conversation about which products they prefer. And in our case, we were fortunate that was not something that they were doing. That's not something that we wanted for this time. Another question is that what experience do you have working with physicians or individuals in the medical profession? And in our case, our fiduciary, he was married to a physician, and he had made his this part of his career specific for physicians. So that's something that we were really looking for. If you'll see, there's actually one of who's also a coach. He's a coach in our mastermind. And in one of our podcasts, he came, Dr. David Ye. He's a physician. He's a nuclear medicine physician, and he is a financial advisor. So he's being great coaching us, and he was the one who coaches on the buckets. What are the buckets? The buckets, well, when you're handling your money, you're going to handle your money, and then you're going to have the bucket where you feel for your daily living. Then you're going to have your bucket that you feel for your emergencies. And we're thinking that usually should be like between 6 to 12 months. Actually, that was extremely helpful, especially during COVID, when people, there was people who were laid off immediately and all these things that happened. And I had a friend in particular, he was immediately like laid off, like super quick, radiologist. And he had his emergency bucket, and that his family was doing okay. Then the other bucket is the one that I lived very inside that bucket for many years. It was the dream bucket, right? Dreaming and going to trips and parties and all this stuff. And we've learned to tune that one so that then we could have for other things like investing on ourselves. That's how we have our business right now, which is our clinic. Then we've invested on that. So that's the fourth bucket, investments. And then that investment bucket can be like anything that you want, right? A lot of people are doing real estate. You can buy businesses. You can invest, I don't know, Bitcoin or whatever it is that suits you. But those are the four buckets. Another question to ask your financial advisor would be if they can provide any references or testimonials from clients or similar financial goals and with similar financial goals or circumstances to what you have. Having somebody who's really familiar with physicians is going to be very, very good to answer these questions, because physicians will talk to physicians and they'll be able to recommend. I have to tell you that in my case, earlier experience, I don't know what happened with that with other financial advisor, but I'm glad that we finally got to our last one. The other question that you can ask is that how do you stay updated on the latest financial trends and strategies? And you'll see that many of them will have blogs or podcasts. And those are things that you can use these days to evaluate. They might have financial groups on Facebook, or they have published on LinkedIn. And that way you will know if they're staying updated in the latest financial trends and strategies. Another question would be, what services do you provide beyond investment management? Some of them will provide like tax planning and estate planning. In our case, we did not have that. We only were focused with investment management with them. And in our case, we maintain an attorney for an accountant for tax planning and estate planning separately. A different question would be, how often will we meet to review our financial plan, and what ongoing communication can I expect? And that happens like on the very first visit. You'll go, this is our expectations. Many of them will have like already a plan set up of how the meetings happen, how many meetings you get through the year. And but you still have to go ahead, obviously, and schedule those together with them. And it's important that you have those because it's the planning. And if you have somebody in your life, you have a partner, a spouse, definitely this is something that is a family affair. It's a family affair to do this. It's not something that you're supposed to do on your own. Doesn't matter that, you know what, I don't like numbers, I don't like this. When you're doing financial planning, is for the family. So when you're talking, if you're going to talk, and you'll see, like we had another podcast with a different financial advisor, and the first thing that he was talking about, it was like the mindset, right? The mindset of money, your goals, what you want to do. That's what they talk to in their first visit. They're not talking about, oh, let's see how we're going to invest this money right away. No, there's no money to invest in the first visit. In the first visit, it's like, how is your family living? What are your goals? Where do you want to go? In my case, I do want to go, and I'm going to make it to Antarctica. So if I die, if I know I'm going to die next month, guess what I would be buying? I would be buying a trip to Antarctica, because that's something that I really want to do. And so it's important that the family goes together to this type of meeting. And if you have teens, you have kids who will understand and will be able to sit in that room, have them learn with you. They need to learn these topics. And we've been doing that with our kids. They're actually even part of our business here in the Maxillary Mastermind and in the podcast. We want them to have the advantage that certainly we didn't have growing up. The other question that we could ask a potential financial advisor is that, what is your approach to risk management and asset allocation? And that was one of the things that I mentioned earlier. For example, for asset allocation, ours really didn't have the expertise on real estate, but they were, at the time when we hired them, they were exactly what we needed just to organize ourselves for that first stage. And you can think about this as, as an ongoing work that you're going to be doing. As long as you're making money and as long as you need money to work, you have to organize your money in some way. The other things, like the risk management, the approach to risk management, that was a question that actually they answered for us in our case. Even before we posed a question to them, we didn't have to, because they explained to us that ahead of time. And that was really good and reassuring, because many of these questions they answer for us even before we ask them. But they're very important for one to understand before even paying that first fee to whoever the financial advisor is going to be. The last question to ask them is, how do you measure the success of your clients' financial plans? And what benchmarks do you use to track progress? This will give you a sense of their overall achievements. And we can say, that past success doesn't guarantee future success, but it gives you an idea of who you're dealing with. People will tell you about their successful stories, and that's what we want to listen, right? But it gives you some reassurance of where you would like to go in your own financial pathway. So remember that hiring a fiduciary financial advisor is something that you should do if you still have doubts about how to handle your money. You'll see many people, especially online, as physicians, yes, we can do everything and anything. And I know that we can learn, but there's some things that we call, like we want to fast track some things. And there's a lot that we've missed because we've been learning medicine. And that has been the priority for our patients to be, safe in our hands. And that's our life. It has to be that patients came first during that whole period that we were learning. And we didn't have that period to learn about finances like many other people did through all these years that we were, spending in medical school and residency and fellowship. So hiring an advisor is not a bad thing, especially if you want to fast track a lot of this knowledge. Not that you cannot learn it on your own, but if you want to really, speed up things and really get up to date and try to minimize doing bad decisions, doesn't guarantee it, but it will certainly be very helpful. It's a decision that will really impact your future, your family futures. Don't hesitate to ask the questions and any other questions that you might have to really find a good advisor that will align with your goals and values. And I hope that you learned some of my story. Finding a good financial advisor can be like finding a good doctor, a good psychologist, any good professional who's going to help you. You might have to go through some frogs to finally find your prince, I guess. And that's what happened in our case. But I hope that this is helpful for you. If you have any questions, reach out. We are here to help. And this has been our experience. We are very happy where we are, from all those. We certainly acquired some experience and now we are able to ask all these questions. But you don't have to suffer with that because now you have, hopefully, this guide to hire your own financial advisor. Go ahead and visit our website. If you have any other questions, you can find me online on LinkedIn or through social media, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for being here. Bye. And that's it for today. I hope that you learned some in terms of how to find now your financial advisor, like I did in my journey to find my financial advisor. Please check out our website, maxallure.com, MAXALLURE. Subscribe to this podcast, Design Your Physician Life. Share with your friends and family. Give us 5 stars for reviews, and I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.
Please remember that Design is not providing specific financial, medical, or career advice. Our only intent is to stimulate your appetite for growth by sharing our experience and those of our speakers, coaches, and guests. Your personal growth and success will be unique to your circumstances and your hard work. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you next week.